and Apple shares fell 1.3% on Thursday. Now, joining us tonight is Shara Tibken. She's a senior writer with CNET News. Shara, let's start with the fact that sales of the iPad have slumped in the first half of this year, down about 13% from the same period last year. Is this about Apple just facing more competition, or is this indicative of demand for tablets waning?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. People are holding on to their tablets much longer than they hold on to their phones. They're also passing them on to family members and friends. So people are just not upgrading quite as often. There also are a lot of new options out there in the tablet market. There's much cheaper devices running Android. There's a lot of really great Windows products out there. So, it's a combination of both of those factors.
So combination of price, more competition, and then, of course, the fact that there's just less interest in the products. But do you think with these new changes that were announced today, Apple is going to be able to regain some market share and perhaps also increase overall interest in tablets?
I think it remains to be seen just how much they really help them. These are more incremental updates than any really big advances. People who have the first iPad may be interested in upgrading, but someone who bought the iPad Air last year, for instance, definitely won't. About 14% of people who have iPads in the US are still using the very first tablet. So we could see some people upgrading, but it's likely not going to be a huge rush of people lining up at the stores.
Well, earlier this year, Apple announced a partnership with IBM, and the hope is to increase the use of iPads as well as iPhones in the enterprise market. Do you think this strategy is going to work for Apple?
It's a very smart strategy for Apple. Business customers are much more stable than consumers. There's a lot more money to spend, a lot more, more likely to have more orders. So pushing tablets and phones and Macs and all of those products in businesses is a really smart move. We've also seen companies like Samsung make a really big push with this as well. So this is something that could definitely help the companies as they're trying to grow in the mobile market.
Yeah, and how important is it for Apple that it grow in the commercial market? I mean, we've known for a long time that Apple's been a favorite among sort of the retail user, but at companies, they've often before, at least they were with BlackBerry. Do you think that they're going to be able to make these inroads, and how important to their business is it that they are successful in this strategy?
Apple obviously sells millions and millions of devices. A lot of people are doing BYOD, which is bring your own device. So Apple has kind of made its way into the enterprise and into businesses just by people saying, hey, I have this great iPhone, I really want to use it. They've always talked about how most of the Fortune 500, most big companies already support Apple devices. The partnership with IBM will push this even more, and we'll make sure that there are apps specific for companies that work really well on the iPad or work really well on the iPhone. So this is something that could really help Apple over the longer term, and we're just going to have to see how big the impact is.
Shara, I also want to mention that Tim Cook made a point of talking about China in today's meeting. How important is that market for Apple?
China is vital. In the United States and other developed markets, everybody who wants a smartphone has one. Most people who want a tablet have one. Everybody has computers. It's the developed markets where most of the growth is going to come from. So Apple really needs this huge market of people to be buying its iPhones and its iPads and its Macs. And this is something that's absolutely essential for them to grow.
And lastly, I just want to talk to you about Apple's stock. There was a period where it was sort of a dud, but over the past 6 months, it's up 30%. What do you think has been fueling the optimism?
Well, Apple had promised for a really long time that they were going to show off amazing new products this year. People had been wondering just how much Apple was going to be able to do under Tim Cook's leadership as opposed to Steve Jobs. Last month, they showed off, the Apple Watch, which is their first wearable. They introduced Apple Pay. They have 2 new bigger screen iPhones. Today, they have a couple new Macs, a couple new iPads. All of these are devices that are really going to help Apple attract more customers. So it just makes people feel a lot more comfortable with the company's stock right now.
All right, great stuff. Thank you so much. That was Shara Tibken, senior writer with CNET News. But keep in mind, the stock today, Apple that is, did not react favorably to the conference. So it'll be interesting to see how investors react tomorrow.